Live from Lane Stadium, Lane Tech football is on the air. Fritz Pollard Day from historic Lane Stadium as Lane Tech honors one of their most trailblazing alums in their athletics and overall history. But also on the field, Lane Tech looking for their first state playoff berth since 2013. A win over the Clark Eagles, a dynamic rushing and passing team, will clinch that for Lane Tech. Thanks so much for joining us. My name's Alex Burstein above the 50-yard line here at Lane Stadium for what should be a fun one this afternoon between Lane Tech and Clark, two teams that have both had some success, some struggles throughout the season. However, Lane Tech has found ways above those all those struggles and have a 5-0 record on the year. They're looking to go 6-0 and clinch a state playoff berth this afternoon, as we will send you down to the field with just over 2 minutes to go until kickoff here at Lane Stadium. I don't believe we have done the coin toss yet, so there may be a slight delay in the actual kickoff here, but we should have football action very soon here at Lane Stadium. As we mentioned, it is Fritz Pollard Day here at Lane Stadium. If those of you were not able to tune into the ceremony a couple of minutes ago, you can go to the Lane Tech Athletics YouTube channel. The full stream from earlier today is on there. It was a very moving ceremony as Lane Tech honored one of their most historic alumni who passed away in the numerous years ago, but just had left such a lasting legacy on this Lane Tech football program and this school. We'll have more on him throughout the broadcast here tonight, but Lane Tech hoping they can get a win to honor Pollard here on this Saturday afternoon. It is a beautiful day for football. We're in a little bit of shade here, but it is sunny around the entire stadium. It is in the upper 60s, just perfect football weather here to open up October as we see the referees go to midfield now, and then we are going to have looks like an honorary coin toss here by a Principal Edwina Thompson, as well as I believe Fritz Pollard's grandson, who we do not have a name for. I apologize for that, but they will be doing an honorary coin toss here on this Fritz Pollard Day. Earlier today, during the ceremony, the City of Chicago officially announced that October 1st will be known as Fritz Pollard Day here in Chicago. A lot of city dignitaries and representatives from the county were here, as long as numerous members from the committee that helped put together this whole thing. For those of you not aware, Lane Stadium's field now officially being dedicated as Fritz Pollard Field here at Lane Tech, and on the north end zone they have 4 plaques representing Pollard's life and all the legacies that he left, being one of the first African-American players in the NFL, the first African-American head coach in the NFL. He was a trailblazer at the college football game, and then also just so much philanthropy and success for him throughout his life. So really left a lasting legacy on this school and finally gained the acknowledgement that he deserves on this Saturday morning at Lane Stadium. Referees chatting it up near midfield with our honorary coin tossers here. Lane Tech's 4 captains getting ready to walk towards midfield. That'll be number 81, Casey Joyce, number 55, James Wynn, number 9, Giannis Katsogradakis, and number 24, Finn Merrill, who have all been so important to the success of this team so far this year. The 3 captains for the Clark team here today will be Kawan Fountain, number 0, number 1, Willie Taylor, and one more who I believe is an offensive lineman. And I wrote down, and number 70, Markel Taylor, who's an offensive and defensive lineman, as both of the teams are going to walk towards midfield here at Lane Stadium, and we will see which team wins the toss. Traditionally, Lane Tech, when winning the toss this year, has deferred and gotten the ball to start off the second half instead of the first. So if they win here today, that's what we can expect them to do. There's a little bit of wind here at Lane Stadium right now. It is blowing mostly south, which shouldn't have that much of an effect on the game. However, earlier today it was blowing out a little bit west, so the wind is changing throughout the afternoon. We will see how that affects the game here, as the referees are going to talk to the players quickly here before the coin toss to start things off on this Saturday morning. Lane Tech coming off their closest game of the season, not points-wise, but just in skill-wise, a 24-15 win over Whitney Young. Lane Tech probably had the more skilled players in that one, but Whitney Young did a great job of shutting down Lane Tech's rushing offense for pretty much the entire second half It led to just a 9-point win for Lane Tech at Winamax Stadium last Saturday, so that was enough for Lane Tech to get to 5-0, but it was close, and it'll be interesting to see how their strategy kind of changes here on this Saturday. For Clark, it was a rougher week 5 for them. They fell to Westinghouse 34-30 in the Battle of the West Side. That drops their record this year to 3-2. They were 3-1 entering last week, and they are 1-1 in conference play. This is actually the only game that's going on a Saturday in the Chicago Public Red North. Two pretty fun matchups last night between the other 4 teams. Phillips taking on Whitney Young, and the Dolphins kept it close, about a 2-touchdown game through the first half, but then the Phillips team, which is just a traditional powerhouse here in the Public League, took over in the second half, and they ended up winning that one by a final score of 42-7. And then in the second game, which went quite late, I think it was ending around 10 p.m. or later, it was Taft taking on Westinghouse. That game was at Taft, and it was close in the third quarter. I tuned into the game for a little bit, and I think Taft had a 7-6 lead over Westinghouse, but in the fourth quarter, their offense came alive, and Taft was able to get past the Warriors 23-6, as we are going to see who won the toss here. Looks like Lane Tech won the toss and are going to defer, so it should be Clark offense to start off play here at Lane Stadium. I believe we're going to have the national anthem in just a second, and then we will be back to gameplay here at Lane Stadium. So this Lane Tech defense, which did so good guarding the rush last week, are going to take the team first, and this is actually our key to the game. Gets through this really quickly before the national anthem. The key for Lane today is just going to be guarding the downfield passes. This is a Clark team that can really throw the ball down the field. They have some receivers, especially a tight end in number 1 Fountain, who can catch it, as we'll turn it now to the national anthem and be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Lane Tech football here on the Lane Tech Athletics YouTube channel.
Is led under the direction of Barrett. Good job, man. Thank you.
Great rendition of the Star Spangled Banner from the Lane Tech Marching Band, and with that, it is time for football here at Lane Stadium on Fritz Pollard Day. Lane Tech looking to get a win to honor the historic alum of Lane Tech. Lane Tech deferred the kick, so it'll be number 95, Simon Olson, kicking off to the Clark Eagles to start things off. Just as a quick note, this is a co-op team with Clarks. They do have some players who are from Douglas Prep. However, it is a majority of players who play for who go to school at Clark, and that is the school they represent on their jerseys, so we will be going with Clark's name as we call out the players here tonight. As Olsen, standing right now around the 40-yard line, was last year the kicker for this team, has transitioned into more of just kickoffs and punts for Lane Tech this year. He does not do any point scoring, but he's been very excellent on kickoffs this year, and we'll look to have a good one to down the Eagles back in far down territory here to start off things on this Saturday morning. Olsen sets the ball, and we're just about ready for football here from Lane Stadium. Lane Tech in their all-green uniforms with yellow helmets to start things off here today. Clark in their all-white away jerseys with gray pants. Third home game of the year for Lane Tech. We'll see if they can get to 6-0 in a state playoff berth as we're underway here from Roscoe Village. Fielded around the 15-yard line. We'll see if Lane Tech can get an early stop here on defense, and they will be. An excellent tackle there by, looks like number 27, Hans Flynn, who exited last week's game against Whitney Young early. Did not play the entire fourth quarter, but looks like he is back and in good form to start off things here on this Saturday morning. Your 4 players to watch on offense today for Clark. It'll be their quarterback, number 3, Adrian Clayton, who we believe is the QB1 here today for the Eagles. We'll see that in a second when they break their huddle. He does a good job mixing things up, taking it from under center as well from shotgun formation. Our other players to watch, 2 running backs in the form of number 1, Willie Taylor, and number 9, Camarion Rice. Both can really run the football. We'll see if Lane Tech can stop that. They've done a really good job this year of stopping the run offense from opponents, so we'll see if they can do that again here today. And then finally, it'll be number 0, Keyshawn Fountain, who's been very impressive here today, as players are going to still wait for a first down. Looked like Clark was ready to go there, and then they went back into their huddle. A late substitution, no flag was thrown, so it still will be 1st and 10 from the from the Clark 22-yard line. Clark just huddling there near the 10-yard line as they talk things over before we have our first play from the line of scrimmage here today. Lane Tech's defensive line has been so impressive this year. Last week against Whitney Young, they held the Dolphins to only 36 yards on the run. Where Lane Tech did get beat, it was in the air. They gave up 197 yards receiving. They let the Whitney Young quarterback go 17 for 28. They did have 2 interceptions, though, so we'll see what Lane Tech can do here today, as looks like we're just about ready for the first play here. Looks like we may have a different quarterback into the game for Clark, as they're going to hand it off. A fumble there on the first play of the day. That's Tyshawn Perkins, the sophomore quarterback, into the game. Lost it on the handoff, but was able to recover it, and that will bring up 2nd down and long here. Looks like that brought him all the way back to the 19-yard line, and we'll go 2nd and 12 now for the Eagles. So a good start of the day off defensively for Lane Tech. They get the pressure on the young quarterback here for the Eagles, and we'll see if they can do it again. Perkins has been named as one of the better young quarterbacks in the area, as he'll hand it off here on 2nd down, gain up the middle, and quickly stopped there by number 44, Zach Shoshua. Ball carrier there for the Eagles was number 5, Caleb Rogers. So a couple of players who we did not really expect to have carries here early on for the Eagles are part of this offense. Looks like kind of a new looking offense for these Eagles, and that will bring up 3rd down and 9 after the 3-yard rush from number 5, Caleb Rogers, the senior. We've only seen rushing plays through the first 2 for Clark. We'll see if they go through the air for the first time here today. That is something they know how to do. They've had some good rushing attempts, some good throwing attempts this year, so we'll see if they can do it. Looks like it'll be Perkins lining up in the shotgun here, and we might have a timeout called already. Running over to the marker, I think it might just be a mismarking. Yes, they will. So they had it at a 3rd and 10. It's actually a 3rd and 9 here from the 23-yard line. And we'll see what Clark can do. First 3rd down for the Lane Tech defense of the night. They're going to drop back to pass, looking up the middle, and almost in there for the sack. Rolling is Perkins wide open down the field. This one has a chance to be intercepted and incomplete. Diving at the last second for the catch was number 2, Dontrell Starks, the senior wide receiver. Lane Tech's defense kind of lost a receiver there. Jacoby Thurman was almost there for the interception and went over his head. It'll end up being 4th and 9, so that's what we talked about. Lane Tech's defense here today is going to really need to guard the downfield passes. They do that okay on the first try, almost a complete pass, but luckily the ball thrown a little too short. And now we'll have our first punt of the night from this Clark team. Looks like it's going to be number 13, Jakari Wiggins, possibly to kick here. As there's a bad snap here. Wiggins gets it, finally gets the punt off. Merrill around midfield to receive it, gets past him. And this has been something we have seen from Merrill the last week or so. He's had some trouble receiving these punts, and I think he's gone in front of them, but he's just decided to let a lot of them bounce. And right there, Lane Tech loses at least 15 yards there on the kick. Apologies, it was Amarje Devine actually on the kick for the Eagles, and Devine puts Lane Tech all the way back at their own 38-yard line where they will start things off. 0-0, 10:04 to go in quarter number 1 here from Lane Stadium on Fritz Pollard Day. We will see if Lane Tech can get any offensive momentum on their first play of the night from the line of scrimmage. For those of you who have not watched Lane Tech this year, you can expect a lot of rushing here from them. As some pre-snap movement there. Clark is saying it's against Lane Tech. Initially, it looked like it was the Eagles who moved first. We'll see what the referees say. They're going to call a false start against Lane Tech. We do not get a number here in high school of who committed it, but that will bring Lane Tech back 5 yards. And now they're going to have first and long here from their own 33. This is what has really hurt Lane Tech offensively this season. Because they're such a run-heavy team, the keys for them have just been 3, 4, 5-yard chunk plays down the field. It gets a lot harder to do that in 3 downs when you're starting with 15 yards to go, as it'll be Seward under shotgun. Looked like some movement there from Clark. They won't call it. The pitch back to Merrill. Merrill up the middle, and his first carry of the night gets Lane Tech back to around the original line of scrimmage. They will. So they say Merrill gets 5 on that one, and it will be 2nd down and 10 now from the from the Lane Tech 33-yard line. So Lane Tech will need 2 more plays like that to try to get a first down for the first time here today. We did not see a first down by the Clark offense on their first drive, so we're still waiting to see the first down of the day. 9:30 to go, quarter number 1 of action. Seward under shotgun again. Katsogradakis right behind him. He led the team in carries last week. They're going to pitch it to Merrill. Same exact play, and Merrill gets past a couple of tacklers. Looks like they're going to mark him down at around the 37, so that will be a gain of 4. And Lane Tech will have 3rd and long here, 3rd and 6 from the 33-yard line. So Lane will need their longest run of the day if they want to get a first down here early on. The other option is, we have not seen them do this early in games yet, but they could catch this Clark team off guard and run some sort of passing play here. We do see Joyce on the outside. He could break away for a possible pass. We've seen them do stuff like that here. As Joyce in movement, they're going to give it to Joyce, hands it off to Merrill. Merrill up the middle, and he's got first down yardage. Merrill still on his feet down to the 50-yard line, and Lane Tech converts on 3rd and 6 to get the first down of the day. Merrill there on a 13-yard rushing attempt. They'll mark it down at the Lane Tech 49-yard line, but a very nice play there by Merrill. That's been one of Lane's favorite to do all year long. They hand it off to, they pitch it to Casey Joyce, who hands it off to Finn Merrill, or the other way around. They hand it off to Finn Merrill, who pitches it to Casey Joyce. But both of those plays have been working very well for Lane Tech this season, and they get the first down of the day here, as Seward will stay under center here. Joyce in motion. They pitch it to him. Joyce has his first carry of the day. Up the middle at the 40. He has open field in front of him. He could go all the way. He will. 51 yards for Casey Joyce to open up the scoring here on Fritz Pollard Day. What a run there by the senior. He goes all the way to the end zone, had open field in front of him. Unable to chase him down there was the quarterback for Clark, number 6, Tyshawn Perkins. And that is just the start you want if you are a Lane Tech fan. 6-0 Lane Tech with 7:45 to go in quarter number 1. We saw Joyce have a similar breakaway play like that against Taft 2 weeks ago. Did not score at all last week, but he has been known for some big runs this season, and he gets one there. And now we'll see if Mugden Creo, who's been very excellent on point-after attempts this year, can make it a 7-point lead here for Lane Tech. Kick is up and is good. Lane Tech will take a 7-0 lead here with 7:45 to go in quarter number 1. So that is just about the perfect start you can have if you're a Lane Tech fan. They get a first down and they then get a 51-yard rushing touchdown from one of your top running backs on just the 4th play from the line of scrimmage. And then we saw on defense for Lane Tech, they held Clark to a 3-and-out. So everything working for Lane Tech early on here. We will see if they can keep that going here on their second defensive possession of the game. It'll be Simon Olson kicking once again here for Lane Tech. 7:45 to go in quarter number 1. Last time Lane Tech played here at Lane Stadium, it was their biggest win of the season, 35-0 over Hubbard. As Olson will send this one back to around the 15. Received at around the 20 now. Perkins on the reception, and he gets down around the 24. So Perkins doing just about everything here early on for the Eagles. He's running the quarterback as QB1 here today, and in addition to that, he has been on defense as it looks like a defensive end, and then he's also on kickoff returns here. So a busy day for the sophomore who will lead his offense out for their second drive of the day. Couldn't get 10 yards the first time. They ended up only getting a net gain of 1 yard after a 3 yards loss of yardage on their first play, and then they had a 1 4-yard run before an incomplete pass on 3rd and 9. So we'll see what they can do here. Perkins back in shotgun here. Interesting formation here. One guy to the right. They're going to hand it off on first down, and a big tackle there from TJ Harper will keep a first down rush. Yet to see any big passing plays. Looked like that was once again number 5, Caleb Rogers, on the carry, as we'll see Perkins under center here for a 2nd and short. They go up the middle again, and looks like that will be first down yardage as Clark converts on their first down of the day. 7:09 to go in quarter number 1. So it looks like we may have two pretty similar offenses here. I expected Clark to be a little more aggressive with their passing to start things off here today, but they've stayed almost completely on the ground other than one incomplete pass. And it's been working. 7-0 the early lead. 6:50 to go in quarter number 1 of play. And looks like we're going to have a timeout called there by the Eagles here with 6:46 to go. So that will be their first timeout called here in the first half. They have 2 more to go. So Lane Tech shows some weakness for the first time all day long there, giving up the first down off of 2 rushes, a 6-yard rush, and then I believe a 5-yard rush, and to give the Eagles first down and 10 from their own 36-yard line. We've seen Dontrell Starks, the main guy on the line as a wide receiver here today for the Eagles. However, one thing to watch for with this Eagles defense is number 0, Tyshawn Fountain, as well as anyone else playing in the tight end role. What this team really likes to do is they like to have guys on the edge of the offensive line who just kind of break away, go straight up the middle, and they're usually open because the defensive line has focused on the quarterback. So they've done some plays like that the last couple of years. They've worked well, and we'll see if Clark can execute a play like that here. 6:46 to go, quarter number 1 of action. A 7-0 lead for Lane Tech over the visiting Clark Eagles. Going to line up under center again, 2 running backs. They pitch it for the first time here tonight. And getting down at about the 38-yard line there is number 8, Glenn Harris, with his first carry of the night. Harris, a sophomore, coming in at 5'7". Plays as both a running back and a defensive back. If you look at the roster for this Clark team, they have every single player listed as a two-way player. There's not a single player who's only listed as an offensive or a defensive position. So this team really gets their players a lot of playing time. As we'll see 2nd down and 3 here from the 43. They hand it off again, and into first down yardage is going to be Harris, who has back-to-back carries now. And Clark slowly moving the ball here, as we will reached the midway point of the first quarter. 6:03 to go. Now they'll clock it down to 6 minutes as the clock starts running. They're going to bring Starks back into the game. They took their wide receiver out for that last play as Clark now talks things over. It's interesting with these Clark uniforms. They're a school that school colors are in the yellow range, but their uniforms this year are either all whites or all grays. As Lane Tech defense looking to stop them for the second time today. Perkins on the move, throws it, and in there for the interception is going to be number 5, TJ Harper. Harper read that play beautifully, saw the short pass was going to be a little short, and just falls on it as Lane Tech stops Clark after they get 2 first downs. An excellent job there by the Lane Tech defense to kill this Clark momentum, and they will get possession up by 7 here with 5:25 to go in quarter number 1 of play. Excellent reception there by Harper, who's been the star cornerback for this squad all season long. Just a junior. He'll be one of the big players for this Lane Tech team next season. But even this year, head coach DeWalt said he's basically putting all the toughest assignments onto Harper, and it's been working well for him. As on first down, they're going to go up the middle, and this could be another one. Merrill brought down all the way at the 20-yard line, and on first down, Finn Merrill goes 47 yards. Mark it down at, I think, 46 yards at the at the Clark 21-yard line. But 2 big runs here. First from Casey Joyce, then from Finn Merrill, and this Lane Tech offense just rolling early on here at Lane Stadium. Lane Tech just about 1 yard out of the red zone. Last week against Whitney Young, they had their first 2 plays of the day from the red zone. Both went for touchdowns from Giannis Katsogradakis. One from inside the 5, one from the 20-yard line exactly, as Seward's going to line up under center. Movement here from Joyce. Joyce goes up the middle, now redirects towards the outside, has some open room, and finally will be pushed out around the 10-yard line. And that will be a first down here, as Lane Tech will have first and goal from the 10-yard line. Excellent job there by Joyce. That's been one of the things he's been really good at all season long. Just adjusting his runs, goes up the middle and then moves a little to the outside, and that's led to some big yardage situations. So Joyce on 2 carries now is up to 62 yards. That's about as good of a start as you can get. We'll line up Katsogradakis right behind Seward. We'll see if he gets his first carry of the day. They take it. They will give it to Katsogradakis, who powers his way towards around the 5. Pyle stops him there, and they'll mark him down at the 5. So it'll be second and goal now from the 5-yard line. We've seen a couple of times Lane Tech in their red zone this year have taken plays under the shotgun, and then they have Seward either roll to his right or left, kind of catch the Clark defense off guard, as we're going to see another timeout called here by Clark. That is their second of the half. They have just 1 left, and there is still 3:41 to go in the first quarter of play. So very early on, Clark burning through their timeouts. This is going to possibly prevent them from having some late drives in the second quarter. And it also gives Lane Tech a chance to think things over, see if they want to possibly run a passing play here on second and goal from the 5-yard line. It's sometimes pretty easy to see if Lane Tech's going to be possibly running a pass play based on who they send onto the field. I don't see any of their top receivers in right now. Last week we saw Wesley Nunez have a really good catch in the inside the 5. He is not going to be on the field right now, so I guess we can assume that Lane Tech will be running it on second and goal from the 5-yard line. They're talking things over here. Clark breaks their huddle first. 3:41 to go in quarter number 1 of play. A 7-0 lead for Lane Tech over this Clark Eagles team. Thanks for joining us. Alex Burstein on the call here from Lane Stadium in the second-to-last home game of the year of the regular season for Lane Tech. As Seward under center, movement here from Joyce, and they're going to throw a flag. See if they call false starts. And looks like they might call offsides here. We'll see. Right now the ball has not moved at all. Oh, no, they are. They're going to move it down to about the 2.5-yard line. So half the distance to the goal line there on the offsides here from the Eagles. And it will be second and goal from the 3-yard line here for Lane Tech with 3:41 to go in quarter number 1. So now they could easily punch it in off of a rush from really any 3 of their top rushers. Katsugradakis, Joyce, or Merrill. Botched handoff there, and recovering it looks like it's going to be Oliver Sevig, the center. That's been a problem for Lane Tech these last 2 weeks. Through the first 3 or 4 games of the year, it really was not a problem at all. Lane Tech had no trouble with their handoffs, with their snaps to Seward, who's under center almost every single play. However, these last couple of weeks, we've seen a couple of dropped snaps from Seward. Lane Tech has luckily recovered every single one of them, but it's definitely something Lane Tech's going to want to clean up as they head into the tougher part of their schedule. Clock ticking here as we reach the 3-minute mark to go in quarter number 1. Seward under center again, this time a clean handoff. They give it to Katsugradakis, who's up the middle and in. His 3rd touchdown in 2 weeks. He had 2 last week against the Dolphins, and he punches in Lane Tech's 2nd touchdown of the day to put them up 13-0. The senior two-way player has just been, his size, so impressive and such a good addition to this rushing game for Lane Tech. He led the team in carries last week, and on his 2nd rushing attempt of the day, goes up the middle and gets the score as Lane Tech looks to now go up 14-0 if Mugdam Creo can hit on the extra point attempt from the 10-yard line. Lane really has, I don't think they've gone for 2 once this year. They've been lucky to have pretty consistent point after attempts, as this one will be good, and Lane Tech will go up 14-0 now in quarter number 1 with 2:54 to go. So the offense continues to do their job. They've yet to throw a pass here in the game against the Eagles, but it's been working. 2 big runs first from Casey Joyce for a touchdown, and then on this pass drive from Finn Merrill to get Lane Tech within 21 yards of the end zone, and then they punch it in with Giannis Katsugradakis with just under 3 minutes to go here in quarter number 1 of action, as it'll be Simon Olson kicking once again here from Lane Tech. Lane Tech cheerleaders, dance team, and flags, as well as the band, all here for this Fritz Pollard Day. Performing right now on the field as Olson sends this one, looks like his deepest one of the day. It'll be received at around the 12. They let it bounce, and now they're finally going to decide to run it back. An interesting play there. It allowed Lane Tech's defense to get there quite quickly and wrapped up around the 20 there for Clark, and they will start their drive at their own 21-yard line. So far today, there has been no good starting field position for the Eagles. Lane Tech has had decent field position both of their 2 drives, and that has definitely been part of the problem for the Eagles. We did see Clark take it all the way to the Lane Tech 49-yard line last drive. However, it ended up with a pick by TJ Harper, the junior for Lane Tech. As Clark will now try to find some way to get back in this one, trailing by 14 early at Lane Stadium. The rush game has been working the best. It hasn't been working great, but it's been working best for the Eagles. They're 0 for 2 with an interception on their first 2 passing attempts, as rushing attempt on first down looks like that's going to be brought down for a loss of yardage. Gavin Cole there was quickly for the pressure. I don't think he ended up bringing it down. It might have been Zach Shoshua with the final tackle, but good pressure there by Cole. Brings up 2nd down and 10. They say he got back to the line of scrimmage, so still 2nd and long here for the Eagles with 2:18 to go in quarter number 1 and the clock running here. Lane Tech's games this year have traditionally been somewhat fast just because of the fast nature of all their runs. The clock does not stop much as they'll hand it off on 2nd down. And breaking a couple tackles, finally brought down there by Joshua, is number 5, Rogers, who's had a couple of quality runs here. Both Rogers and number 8, Glenn Harris, have been impressive, and that was enough for first down yardage, and they'll be moving those chains here at Lane Stadium for the 3rd time tonight here for Clark. Going to start off this at their own 33-yard line, so they need to get to the 43. They hand it off on first down. Up the middle again is Harris, who gets brought down by a plethora of Lane Tech players. Like a joint tackle there between Joshua and number 45, Edward Nikwe. Under 90 seconds to go here in the first. It'll be 2nd down and 4 from the 39-yard line after the 6-yard gain. They hand it off again, this time running to the outside. New brusher, that's going to be number 3, Adrian Clayton, it looks like, and he gets brought down. Excuse me, no, that'll be DeMarcus Reynolds on the carry, brought down by Harper. And now with under a minute to go in the first quarter, it's going to be 3rd down with 2 yards to go. This would be a big stop for the Lane Tech defense. You assume that Clark is going to go rushing on this one, but they might try to trick Lane Tech, who I assume is guessing for a rush as well. Lane does have Casey Joyce back around the Lane Tech 48-yard line if they do decide to throw it alongside quarterbacks Jacoby Thurmond and TJ Harper. They do run it, and they're going to call a false start here against the Eagles. So a big missed opportunity here for Clark. They had 3rd down and 2 yards to go. Now they're going to move it all the way back to a 3rd down and 7, and you assume Clark might be forced to pass now, as it's going to be a long yardage 3rd down situation. They're going to mark them down at the 36-yard line. You could see the coaching staff on the opposite sideline here. It was just not happy at all with their team after that false start. 10 seconds left in quarter number 1. Not sure if Clark's going to get a play off. I believe they won't have to. There won't be a delay of game. They are set for a possible play. 3 seconds on the clock. They rush it. They go up the middle, and unable to get the first down there is number 5, Caleb Rogers. He goes for about 4 yards. It will be 4th down and 3 to start off the second quarter. But first, a little break. Lane Tech with 2 rushing touchdowns to start off this game. They lead 14-0 as we head to quarter number 2. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Lane Tech football here on the Lane Tech Athletics YouTube channel. Well, the sun is beaming down here at Lane Stadium, and an excellent start for this Lane Tech offense and defense. They're going to force the Eagles to punt again, it looks like, here on 4th down and 3 from their own 40-yard line, and Lane Tech will have their 3rd offensive possession. Or that's what we thought. Now it looks like the Eagles might decide to line up to go for it on 4th down. So a big play coming up here for this Clark offense. They go up the middle, and they're going to get the first down. So a nice play call. They decide to just go straight up the middle with number 6, Perkins. It was a quarterback sneak. And a first down for the Eagles here to start off the second quarter. So that's definitely a good momentum booster for this Eagles team, who had struggled on 3rd down a couple of times earlier this game, and now they'll be 1st and 10 from the Clark 47-yard line. A good chance for the Eagles to get into Lane Tech territory. The last time they were on the verge of making a run, they threw a pick. This time they will decide not to. A handoff on first down, trying to get the ball out there, and almost successful was Merrill. On the rush is going to be Glenn Harris, who's continuing to have a pretty solid day. Number 8 for the Eagles. And with 11 minutes to go in the second quarter, it will be second down and 8 from the 48-yard line for the Eagles. So it looks like the Eagles are trying to do a very similar strategy as Lane Tech is, just run it a couple of yards at a time, and then they're obviously hoping they can have a couple of breakaway runs like we have seen from Lane Tech. 10:30 to go on the clock here. Some pre-snap motion. A fake handoff. It's going to be a quarterback sneak from Perkins, and right there for the tackle will be number 45, Nikwe here for Lane Tech. An excellent read there by the champions. It actually might have been Joshua who ended up number 44 on the tackle. But a great stop there on the attempt on the sneak play, and they will now be third down and 9, a loss of a yard there on the play. Clark has struggled here on third down and long. Last time on 3rd and 7, they went for it, ran it 4 yards. They were able to convert the 4th down, but I don't think we have any third down conversions yet for the Eagles, and this will be their tied for their longest third down conversion attempt of the day. They had 3rd and 9 on their first drive. Perkins drops back. Pressure here from Lane Tech. Rolls to his right, and he might run it himself. Gets it to around the 48, and met there by both Joshua and Nikwe, the two guys we said might have had a tackle on that last play. And it will only end up being a 1-yard gain, and that will be 4th down and 8. Clark did convert on a 4th down earlier this possession, but this one is significantly longer. It's going to be Finn Merrill back to receive here for Lane Tech if they do decide to punt for it. But Merrill's coming back up to the line of scrimmage. He's standing around the 40 now, and looks like this is going to be a 4th down and 8 conversion attempt from the Eagles. Perkins back in shotgun formation, running back to his right, couple of receivers to his both sides. Quick pass up the middle, through the hands there of the star wide receiver, Starks. And a turnover on downs, and Lane Tech will have their best field position of the day. They take it over in Clark territory at the 49-yard line with 8:43 to go in quarter number 2. Already a 14-0 lead for Lane Tech over Clark. And the day just continues to go very well. That's the second passing attempt of the day we've seen from Clark. That it wasn't really Lane Tech's defense that was playing super well. It's just been an incomplete pass and 2 incomplete passes now that have hindered this Clark offense, as Seward will take it in shotgun. They pitch it to Joyce, who's going up the middle, has some open room off to the 40, and finally tripped up there at around the 40-yard line by, looks like, number 1, Willie Taylor, the running back and linebacker for this Clark team. They're going to mark him down. Ooh, they're giving him the benefit of doubt there. He goes down all the way to the Lane Tech the Clark 38-yard line. That is a 11-yard gain for Casey Joyce. And now 1st and 10 once again for Lane Tech with 8:20 to go in quarter number 2. Lane Tech looking to get to 6-0 on the season. Clinch their first state playoff berth since 2013. Seward hands it up the middle to Katsogradakis, however, met with the defensive line pretty quickly. They're going to mark him down at the, looks like the 40-yard line. There is an injured player on the field right now for Clark. There's going to be an injury timeout. Hopefully whoever that is okay. We cannot see a number right here. I don't think Lane Tech's going to have as much success today with Katsogradakis, who led the team in carries last week, going up the middle as they did last week against the Dolphins, because the size on this defensive and offensive lines for the Eagles is just so impressive. They just have a lot of size there for their players. And one of them down right now, still receiving attention on the field as Lane Tech's going to take a knee. Clark as well on the far sideline. 7:53 to go in the first half of play. Lane Tech has been in control in this one. And now the player sits up. That's a good sign for the injured Clark player. And he's going to be able to walk off the field by himself, it looks like. That's number 69, McQuan Duncans, the sophomore lineman, as well as one of the punters on this team. But he's able to walk off the field by himself. That's a good sign. And after the injury, it'll be 3rd down and 5 yards to go from the 34-yard line of Clark. We do see here, you can see maybe on the screen, Wesley Nunez has come into the game for Lane Tech. He's listed as a wide receiver and a tight end on this team, but that means we could possibly see a passing play to catch this Clark team off guard coming up. Seward in shotgun formation. Joyce with some movement. They fake it, and just like that, they are going to throw it. And Seward looking downfield. They're going to almost find Hans Flynn. It goes off his hands. We did say it looked like there Lane Tech was going to go for the pass. They do it, but it goes incomplete. And now it'll be 3rd down and 6. Lane Tech did a very good job selling that pass because they had Casey Joyce do the pre-snap movement that they do every time they're pitching to either him or Merrill. And they end up just not doing it. And it'll be 3rd and 6 now from the 34-yard line of the Eagles. Seward gets ready for the snap. Movement this time from Alex Lagus, who's into the game. And that's going to be a sack of Joyce, who had gotten the ball but is not able to move at all there. And now there'll be 4th and long here. They're going to move it back to the 36-yard line. And it looks like they're going to keep the offense on the field for a 4th down and 8 attempt here for Lane Tech. So we saw Clark go on it on 4th and 8. Their last possession, they were not able to convert. Now Lane Tech is going to try to do the same thing with more success as the clock reaches the 6:45 mark to go in quarter number 2. Seward under shotgun movement from Joyce, and they're going to call a false start. Oh, wow, they called an offsides against Clark. The referee had a delayed response there. They're going to call an offsides against Clark, and all of a sudden it goes from 4th and 8, where Lane Tech might have to pass it, to a 4th and 3, where they can hypothetically probably do any of their run plays to try to convert. So a big mistake there from Clark, who give Lane Tech a much easier shot at converting here on 4th down and 3 with 6:20 to go in quarter number 2. And they're going to go straight out the middle of Katsogradakis. He's met pretty quickly. We'll see where they mark him, and it looks like they mark him short at the 29-yard line. There is going to be a flag on the play. So this could be a big one. If Lane Tech does not get the penalty here, it'll be turnover on downs. They're going to call a face mask against Clark, though. And 2 straight penalties by Clark. First gives Lane Tech a much more doable 4th down. They don't convert it, but then a face mask gives them the 1st down. And that's going to move the ball even further into Clark territory here. They're going to mark it at the 24-yard line, a 5-yard penalty. And 1st down and 10 now for Lane Tech once again. This has been their slowest possession of the day for Lane Tech. Just slowly making their way down despite starting the drive at the Clark 49-yard line. 5:50 to go on the clock here in the first half. No one behind Seward. Different formation than usual is Katsogradakis to his right. They hand it off to Joyce. Joyce to the right-hand side, and a big tackle there by the senior captain, Willie Taylor. There was a late flag on it, and I think they're going to call that an illegal tackle, though. A third straight penalty. They dove straight at the legs of Joyce. And this is going to move the ball, might even move the chains here for Lane Tech. It was originally going to be 2nd down and 10. They're going to move it, over 5 yards. It's going to be a 10 or a 15-yarder. Looks like a 15-yard penalty. They're going to mark it down at the 12-yard line of Clark. So Lane Tech once again getting some luck here on penalties from the Eagles. And apologies for that, folks. We had a computer difficulty here, but I think we should be back on the air as 2nd down and 10. Merrill to the outside, and he easily gets in there for his first touchdown of the day with 4:07 to go in quarter number 3. I hope we were able to get back on the air for that one. Merrill gets yet another touchdown on the season, and now Lane Tech's big 3 of Katsogradakis, Finn Merrill, and Casey Joyce have all scored, as Lane Tech takes a 20-0 lead here in quarter number 2. Looking to make it 21 will be Mugdum Creo. And looks like it might have been brought back. Scoreboard has 20, but Lane Tech's offense is still on the field. And they're going to redo it, so not sure what the call is. They're going to not change the yardage or the down. It'll be 2nd down and 8 from the 10-yard line. So Lane Tech will not get the points there. They hand it up. Joyce up the middle. A late flag. He marches into the end zone. They're going to mark down the play at the 1-yard line. And they're going to call holding against the offense. So back-to-back almost touchdowns for Lane Tech result in some misfortune. And now that was going to be a replay of 2nd down, but it should be a 10-yard penalty. I'm not sure where the holding was committed. They called it quite late. They called it as Joyce was at around the 2-yard line, but it's going to bring them all the way back to the 19. Oh, they might bring it to the 20 now. Trying to see the official spot. They are going to bring it to the 20, and after 2 almost touchdown scores by the Lane Tech offense, it is going to be 2nd down and 18 to go for Lane Tech. So a little bit of misfortune there. They decide to run it, and short gain there is going to be Merrill.
Merrill on the carry. Brought down by 24.
Give him about 3 yards on the carry, maybe 2. And now it'll be a 3rd down with 16 yards to go, and Lane might be forced to throw it. And it looks like we do have an injured Lane Tech player on the field here. So 3:46 to go, 14-0, the lead for Lane Tech. This is going to be the 2nd injury timeout of the day. And still trying to catch who that is on the ground. Lane Tech has had pretty good luck this year with injuries. Have not had that many, and looks like that's going to be number 9, Giannis Katsogradakis, who has to walk off the field with the help of the trainer here at Lane. Luckily, he is still walking, and he's going to walk the last 10 yards or so to the sideline on his own, but a little bit of a limp there, and that would be a big loss for Lane Tech. We'll see if he comes back into the game. Lane Tech already lost one of their fullbacks this year due to some CPS policies, and now injury risk again for Lane Tech. 3:36 to go. They're going to roll the clock. 3rd down and 16 yards to go for Lane Tech from the Clark 18-yard line. They have to get all the way down to the 2-yard line. as they're still going to line up in a rushing position. Seward with the quick pass to Joyce, and he only gets to about the 20. Might be a loss of yardage there.
Screen pass from number 12.
And on the screen pass, that will not convert, and Lane Tech will have 4th down and 18 yards to go from the 20-yard line.
Ball spotted at the 20.
I think there's some confusion here for both teams about what down it is, because the holding and the play that just didn't count. And now they are going to send Mugdum Creo out to kick. They're going to position him at about the 27-yard line. So this will be a 37-yard attempt for the senior first-year kicker. Wouldn't be his season long. He's had a pretty good year, and Lane Tech is going to call their first time out of the night with 2:36 to go in quarter number 1. I completely forgot to mark down how long Creo's kick was last week against Whitney Young, so we're going to quickly look that up here to see if this is longer than his kick he made last week against Whitney Young or not. He's had, I think, 2 missed field goals on the year, but he's been very productive. This has been probably the most productive we've seen Lane Tech kicking during my 4 years at the school. They've found a really good mix with Olson doing the punts and the kickoffs and Creo doing the point attempts. As a quick timeout there for Lane Tech, and they will send Creo back to the 27-yard line. So I'm not sure what that timeout was for. They don't change the play or anything unless they're thinking about running a fake. It'll be Casey Joyce on the hold. Here's the snap. The kick is up and hits the right post.
Kick is up, hits the goalpost, no good.
Creo's had a lot of height on a lot of his kicks this year. That one just was very low. Had a chance to make it in if it didn't curve there at the end, but goes off the right goalpost, and this is going to stay at a 14-0 lead. So Lane Tech thought that they might have a touchdown twice there on that drive. They end up having to go for the field goal. They can't convert, and we'll keep this at a 2-touchdown game with 2:32 to go in quarter number 2 of action. Once again, pretty not great field position for the Eagles, who are going to have to start the drive at their 20. This is actually going to be their worst starting field position of the day. We'll see if they can find the end zone or at least get some points on the scoreboard for the first time here today. This is what we were talking about, though, at the end of the first half, as the first rushing attempt of the afternoon here for Taylor. He goes all the way to the 35, and the pile brings him to the 40. So an excellent first down rush here from the Eagles. The clock is going to keep on running, and this is what we were talking about. Clark used 2 of their timeouts pretty early in the first quarter. So they are only going to have 1 timeout left for this last drive as the clock ticks to about 2:15. That slightly limits their ability to use the rushing game unless they have big runs like they just had there, as they give it to Taylor again on their second first down, but met quickly there by the Lane Tech offense, and it'll be Zach Joshua who wraps up the tackle. They're going to say he did not lose any yardage there, got back to the line of scrimmage, but it'll be 2nd down and 10. Joshua having a very good game here today. The first-year senior linebacker here for Lane Tech, as the clock now ticks down to 1:40. Not really any rush on the field right now from Clark. They're meeting a huddle. The clock is down to 90 seconds. And they're probably not going to get a playoff until 80 seconds to go here in the second quarter. Line up under shotgun here. Perkins, 3 guys behind him, hands it off to Rogers, and a big tackle there from Nikwe. It's been Nikwe and Joshua have been leading this defensive effort for Lane Tech here today. It'll be a gain of 5 and 3rd down and 5 now for the Eagles with 55 seconds left. I'm not sure when you do call the timeout if you're the Clark coach here. I'm guessing you're waiting until a possible field goal attempt. However, the kicking has not been great for the Eagles so far today. As they're going to hand it off to Harris again on second down. He gets close, and he'll break away all the way to the 45. Couple of runs here. Lane Tech having some trouble bringing down the rusher. It will stop the clock momentarily as they move the chains. They mark him down at the Lane Tech 44-yard line. Still way too far for any possible kickoff attempt. We're going to see a timeout called by Clark, and that significantly limits their ability for a field goal unless they go spike the ball or throw it out of bounds to stop the clock. But either way, it'll be first down and 10 from the 44-yard line here, right in front of our camera setup here at Lane Stadium. Thanks for joining us. Alex Burstein on the call here. A beautiful day for football. Lane Tech football's been playing pretty good. However, the offense was not able to score on that last possession, and the defense having some trouble stopping this Eagles rush, which is strange because the one thing Lane Tech defense has done really good this year has been stopping the rush. We talked about earlier in the broadcast, they held Whitney Young last week to only 36 yards on the ground. Young did a really good job passing the ball, 197 yards, which is interesting. Clark, you'd assume after watching the film from that game, they'd say, oh, we're going to pass it a lot. We know how to exploit this Lane Tech defense, but that just has not been the case today. Only a handful of passing attempts here from from Clark. One or two passing attempts from Lane Tech. One went complete. And now it'll be first and 10 from the 44-yard line here for for Clark. 31 seconds on the clock. They fake the handoff. Now they're going to give it. First rush of the day and gain all the way down to the 10 there will be number 10, Clashes Clay. Listed as a wide receiver. They put him in more as a running back there. And he did get out of bounds, but they're going to, oh, maybe he didn't. The clock's still running. 20 seconds on the clock. And they're going to spike it at the 35 with 15 seconds left. You're still looking at about a 50-yard field goal attempt. They're going to keep the offense on the field. 15 seconds, you imagine they have about 2 plays. If they really go for it, possibly 3 plays. If each one's only 5 seconds, then you can get out of bounds. However, once again, the lack of timeouts really hurting the Eagles here. Lane Tech only used 1 this half. They have 2 left, which I imagine they will not be using. They don't carry over to the second half, but no need for Lane Tech to stop the clock right now. As lining up in shotgun is Perkins. No one in the backfield. 3 wide receivers to his left, 2 to his right. Lane Tech playing a zone defense with about 6 guys back, 5 on the line. Perkins looking to his left now, rolls to his right, almost there on the sack. Now here comes another Lane Tech defender. Perkins is going to run it. That one's fumbled, received by Merrill. Finn Merrill always seems to be in the right place at the right time. That will bring us to the end of the second quarter. It was a 15-second play. Perkins, I don't know what he was going to do because the clock was going to run out either way. And that will bring us to the end of the first half here at Lane Stadium. A 14-0 lead. Lane Tech on top of Clark. And both the teams are going to head to their end zone. So a very good first half here for Lane Tech. They take a 2-touchdown lead. Both of those touchdowns scored in the first quarter over the Eagles. We're going to have performances soon from the cheer team and the dance team. I don't believe the band is going down to the field here today, so we will not have a performance from them. Probably next Friday on senior night we will. So we'll do a quick halftime show, then show you the performances, and they're going on the field now. So we're going to tune this over to the Lane Tech dance team and be back in a few minutes for our full halftime show. Don't go anywhere. Your halftime score, Lane Tech 14, Clark 0 here on the Lane Tech Athletics YouTube channel.
Let's give it up for the Lane Tech dance team. And now joining us on Fritz Pollard Field, the Lane Tech cheerleaders. Tech cheerleaders.
Never be the same.
Thank you for joining us on Fritz Pollard Day.
Halftime here from Lane Stadium, Fritz Pollard Field here on Fritz Pollard Day, as Lane Tech has a 14-0 lead over Lane Tech over Clark. And looks like we're actually going to honor some special guests, so we'll turn to the PA announce system real quick.
Team Jack Lease, member of the 1959 Fret Bowl champions, wide receiver at Northwestern University, tight end with the Pittsburgh Steelers and St. Louis Football Cardinals. Welcome back, Chuck Logan. And on Fritz Field today, we'd like to welcome the class of 1970, whose football team won the city championship in 1969. also have plenty of alumni from the teams from 1977, 1981, 1983, 1984, 1987, and 1994. In fact, if you played football, baseball, or were on the track team, please rise so we can acknowledge you and recognize you. Lane Tech, the School of Champions. We'd also like to acknowledge on the Lane Tech football coaching staff from the class of 1983, Albert Reneva. On the Lane Tech football staff from the class of 1984, Coach Michael Washer. Ladies and gentlemen, the stands today are the class of 1983. Football great and his brother. We'd also like to welcome three-sport athlete Chuck Gordon from the class of 1983. Superstar trackman Darren Crowner from the class of 1983. From the class of 1985, football player and member of the Alumni Association and incredible wrestler, Stuart Ing. Let's give it up for your Lane Tech alumni.
Chip, is that Chip
One of the cooler days in recent Lane Tech history here at Lane Stadium, as we get to see some of the top athletes in the last couple of decades honored at Lane Stadium. Right now they're on the field. You were able to hear them all get introduced on the field, and just very cool to see all of these iconic Lane Tech athletes from a couple of decades ago return to Lane Stadium. All these athletes on the field played either baseball, track and field, or football, which were the three sports that Fritz Pollard played during his time at Lane Tech from 1908 to 1912. And just very cool to see all of these alumni back at Lane Stadium. And Lane Tech is playing very great for the alumni, who I'm sure are happy to see a Lane Tech team back in the best form they have been in quite some time. They were 3-0 for the first time since 2003. I'm really not sure when the last time they were 6-0 is. We don't have records that go that long, or at least I don't have access to records that go that far back. So a mystery right now as to how long it's been since Lane Tech has been 5-0. They are eyeing a 6-0 record at the end of today. We'll see if they can get it, and they are well on their way with a 14-0 lead over the Clark Eagles as we enter the second half of play in about 4 minutes time here. Lane Tech was waiting to warm up. They're going to have a slightly shorter warm-up because they had all the players watch all those famous alumni on the field. Clark has been practicing for about the last 3 or 4 minutes or so, but now Lane Tech is going to take the field in the south end zone and get some warm-ups in as we enter the third quarter of play. It's really just what we could have expected from Lane Tech. They ran 1 or 2 trick pass plays, but it was almost exclusively rushing from Lane Tech here on this Saturday afternoon from Lane Stadium. But, I mean, don't fix what's not broken. This has worked all year long for Lane Tech, and they decide to keep up with it on this Saturday morning, and it's led them to a 14-0 lead over Clark. We did see a missed field goal and 2 touchdowns that got called back for penalties for Lane Tech, so the lead could have been a little bit larger for Lane Tech had they converted those, but either way, it's going to be a pretty solid first half of play for Lane Tech, who are looking for their second shutout win of the year. They will get the ball to start off the third quarter, and one of the things that has been pretty consistent with Lane Tech this year is these third quarter drives they have, if they defer, have just been so long. I need to check this, but Lane seems to win the coin toss almost every single time. I can't definitively say they have won it every single time this season, but they have had a very good luck with the coin toss this year, and that has been a big part of them trying to get to 6-0 on the year. We'll take a look at the upcoming schedule for the champions here as we wind down the halftime here at Lane Stadium. They have 3 games left to go in the regular season after today. First up is going to be probably their second toughest test of the season. That is against a Phillips team that currently sits at 3-3, but their 3 losses were all to ranked or almost ranked teams. They've won 3 in a row, all in conference play. They face off against Phillips at home next Friday. That is Friday, October 7th. That is a 7:15 p.m. Kickoff, and you can expect Lane Tech to be absolutely rocking for that one. Funny, a pretty packed crowd here at Lane Tech on this Saturday. It should be pretty packed, however, a different type of crowd, mostly alumni here on this Saturday morning. It'll probably be mostly students on this coming Friday night. Then Lane Tech heads on the road for their final 2 contests of the year. They take on October 15th. They are taking on Westinghouse on the road at 12 p.m. and then they take on Simeon on the road. That game is supposed to be at Rockney at 1 p.m. on Saturday, October 22nd. So Simeon obviously ranked number 7th on the city, I believe. They're a top 10 team not in the city, in the area right now by the Sun-Times. They've just been absolutely tearing it up on the field, and that's going to be Lane Tech's toughest toughest game of the season, as head coach Diedrich DeWalt for Lane Tech plays against his alma mater for the first time. Speaking of rankings, Lane Tech has seen some ranking success for football for the first time in as long as I've seen. They're ranked as an honorable mention right now in 8A by Deep Dish Football, who does top 10 for each of the classes in Illinois, 1A to 8A. And that's pretty cool for Lane Tech, who has not had a lot of press coverage or anything these last couple of years, as they've kind of struggled through the last few seasons. Lane Tech also being covered here by the Sun-Times today. Michael O'Brien from the Sun-Times on the sideline right now covering the game. So very cool to see Lane Tech football finally gain some press coverage here. Long due, and this is their best season in recent history. So very cool to see, as both the teams still on the field. They did set it to a 15-minute halftime when there's usually a 20-minute halftime, so I'm not sure if they're going to add 5 minutes or not. Clark is heading to the bench, so I assume not, but Lane Tech near the south end zone is still warming up there. What they've usually done is they add 2 minutes if a team is not ready, but Lane Tech seems to be, okay, the referee is going to say and add 3 minutes, so we'll have 3 more minutes here at the halftime break before we get back to game action for half number 2. Lane Tech band and flags team performing here in the north end zone and the north bleachers. It's a very great atmosphere here on Fritz Pollard Day from Lane Stadium. Now Lane Tech's going to meet in a huddle to talk over their strategy for the second quarter. Excuse me, for the second half of play, the third and fourth quarter. 14-0, Lane Tech with the lead over Clark. Thanks for joining us. Alex Burstein on the call here from Lane Stadium. Still a little bit windy, but I will say, ever since we mentioned in the opening that it was a little windy, it's definitely kind of slowed down here. There's a little bit of wind blowing out to the south right now, but for the most part, it's been pretty calm conditions here. The sun is definitely beating down. For the first quarter, we were fully in shade, and then the sun came into where we're broadcasting from at the start of the second quarter, And despite it probably being in the upper 60s, it feels a lot warmer right now. And I'm sure on the field, the players with all their pads or stuff are definitely feeling warm right now with these temperatures. Kind of uncharacteristic for October football. You'd be expecting maybe to be wearing some winter coats or something as a fan. Instead, we see some people in short sleeves and shorts even here on this first day of October 2022. About 80 seconds to go until we start off this second half. We have yet to see Lane Tech return a kickoff here yet today because they kicked to start the game and then Clark did not score at all. They punted once or twice, but they didn't score any points, so they did not kick off at all. So we will see Lane Tech's kickoff return team for the first time here today. And if it has not changed, it will likely be Casey Joyce and Finn Merrill in the back. And then we may see Jacoby Thurmond in front of them. They sometimes change that second row, but it's been pretty consistent with Joyce and Merrill as the top two kickoff returners so far this year. Looks like Lane Tech was not ready to finish at 15 minutes, but now they're getting antsy with the whole 18-minute halftime. It was quicker performances than usual from the cheer team and the dance team, which led the teams to have more time to practice than usual here at Lane Stadium. As we'll see both the teams take the field here now. I'm not sure who the kickoff person is for the Eagles. We'll try to see that right now. And it looks like it is going to be number 60 lining up the kick, which is Alberto Hernandez. Freshman lineman, not listed as a kicker, but it's like he will be the one laying down the kick unless he was just setting up the ball, but still setting it up there at around the at the 40-yard line of Clark. So adjusting our camera here for the second half, and we're just about ready for action here from Lane Stadium. 14-0 lead for Lane Tech. Lane Tech is 24 minutes away from their first state playoff berth since 2013. We'll see if they can get it done here on Fritz Pollard Day at Fritz Pollard Field at Lane Stadium. It is going to be Merrill and Joyce back at around the 15-yard line, and then about 10 yards up at about 15 yards up at the 30-yard line is going to be Jacoby Thurmond in case there's a botched kick here. As they're going to send this one high but kind of short, and with the fair catch is going to be number 27, Hans Flynn. Decided not to run that one back. Just took a couple of back steps and then called it off. So Lane Tech will start off with possession at the 32-yard line. Okay, field position, not their best of the day, but they will have the 1st and 10 to start off things here in quarter number 3. 11:58 to go. Just 2 seconds come off the clock there on the kickoff. Usually they don't start it until the ball hits the hands of the receiver. And since it was a fair kick, probably should have been still at 12 minutes. But either way, it'll be 11:58 to go in quarter number 3 of action. Seward, per usual, lining up under shotgun. Giannis Katsokradakis not into the game right now for Lane Tech. Came out with injury the last quarter as Casey Joyce takes this one on the pitch. About 1 yard to the right-hand side, and that will bring up 2nd down and 9.
Brought down by 24, Anthony Spivey.
Spivey on the tackle here for the Eagles, who have done a good job keeping this Lane Tech offense a little more quiet these last couple of quarters. This last quarter or so. The first quarter was just all Lane Tech on offense and defense. We've seen both momentum on both sides of the ball here for Clark, but they just have not been able to find the end zone just yet. Which is definitely something they're going to try to do. Looks like Zach Joshua line up in the fullback position here as they do the handoff, the pitch to Joyce, the handoff to Merrill, who goes up the middle for about 3 yards. And this will bring up 3rd down and long from the 36-yard line of Lane Tech. Should be about 3rd down and 6 here. So this is kind of what you saw against Whitney Young. Lane Tech's run-only defense was able to exploit the opponent's defense early on. Then they kind of figured things out, and it stayed, the offense kind of slowed down did not score much in the second half. However, they had built up a lead enough that they were able to hold it, and we'll see if they can do that again here tonight as whistles are going to blow before this snap. I think someone was just adjusting their uniform. Or no, it looks like a towel was, or glove was dropped maybe, as they whistle the play dead, and now we will redo it. 3rd down and 6. Movement here from Merrill, and they blow the whistle. Going to call the flag, and I believe this should be false start on offense, and it will be. So this brings up an interesting decision for the Lane Tech coaching staff. They're going to have 4th down and 11 yards to go. They don't usually, 3rd down and 11 yards to go. They don't usually throw the ball this early in a half. Usually we see it end of the quarter, or maybe the end of the 4th quarter, where they're trying to experiment a little. Right now, though, Lane Tech faces a decision here with 3rd down and 11. You're not in 4-down territory, and you would rather not give the ball back after just 2 minutes of gameplay. So they're going to motion Joyce. They hand it off to Merrill. Merrill with some open space gets to the 40, and he is close to a 1st down. I'm guessing they're going to mark him about a yard short. And let's see, yes, they're going to spot it at the 41-yard line. Lane Tech needed to get to the 42, but a 10-yard rush there from Merrill. And this is the type of scenario you really would like to have Giannis Katsagradakis into the game, but not an option right now for Lane Tech, and instead they're going to have to go some other way to get the 1st down. It'll be 4th down, 1 yard to go from their own 41-yard line. 9:15 to go in quarter number 3 of play. They hand it off to Zach Shoshua, who gets, I believe, his 1st carry of the season, and I think he was short. The referee's walking out to the 42. That would be a 1st down, and one's at the 42, one's at the 41. The referee, who is closer to it, waves his arm, and that will be a 1st down for Lane Tech. Joshua gets just what he needs on his 1st carry of the year, and Lane Tech is going to move those chains and keep their 1st drive of half number 2 going. This is what we mentioned. These drives to start off the 3rd quarter seem to just go so long. Lane Tech has already burned 3 minutes off the clock, and they're not even in Clark territory yet. They motion Merrill, fake the handoff. They give it to Joyce, and he's just wrapped up immediately. He fell backwards, and that should be a loss of 2 here. It's a slightly different variation of a play Lane Tech has ran a lot this year, because I think Merrill just cut in a little too quickly on the pitch. Did not have a good spot for the pitch, and they're not going to give Joyce forward progress to the 40. They're going to mark him all the way back at the Lane Tech 39, and now 2nd down and 12. Joyce checks out of the game here. Do not see who went in for him, but we'll see how the offense changes here. Seward's still going to line up in center. They won't switch him to a shotgun. We do see Jacoby Thurmond more in the backfield than usual. He's lined up almost directly facing towards Joshua. He had a couple of carries last week. They give it to him. He's rushing towards the right-hand side, has an open lane, spin move, and gets down to the 46. So the sophomore with a nice run there. They'll mark him down at the Lane Tech 46-yard line, and that will bring it to 3rd down and 6 off the 7-yard run from Thurmond. Just talking with head coach Diedrich DeWalt after the Whitney Young game for the paper, and he was saying, trying to bring new guys in. Nunez, because he just has experience as a receiver, and then also Jacoby Thurmond, because he just brings some excellent speed to the backfield. And he shows that there as Lane Tech now 3rd down and 6. Joyce back into the game, and that should be a false start on Lane Tech. So the 7-yard rush is going to be, the initial signal, I guess, goes to all sides. The VA announcer said, I saw the arm going towards Lane Tech. This would be big for Lane if it does go against the Clark, and it will. This brings them all the way up to the 49-yard line of Clark, and now a 3rd down and 6 turns into a 3rd down and 1, and Lane Tech they're in 4-down territory here based off of what we saw last time, so they can just try to punch it up the middle 2 times, and if either one of them converts, this will continue to drive for Lane Tech. 6:45 to go in quarter number 3. Under center, Joshua, right behind Seward. They pitch it to Joyce. Joyce trying to find an opening, and he's got it easily to the 46-yard line for first down here for Lane Tech. 6.5 minutes to go now as they move those chains to the 46-yard line of Clark. Lane Tech in Eagles territory for the first time this half. No one leaving yet from this one, just in case of a Clark late comeback. However, if Lane is able to score on this possession, it's going to make a comeback a lot harder for the Eagles. So we see some motion from Merrill, takes the pitch himself, gets all the way down to the 40, and a nice rush there on first down for about 6 yards for Finn Merrill.
Merrill brought down by Starks and Taylor.
2 guys on the tackle there, including number 2, Dontrell Starks there for Clark. Starks has just had a quiet game here today, as has number 0, Fountain. And I'm starting to wonder if there's injury concerns with him or not, because I'm not sure we've even seen him in on a play. He's in right now, but they just have not passed on him. He's a tight end. He had a 54-yard receiving touchdown week 1, an offer from Roosevelt University, which is moving to D2, but they just have not called his number much or at all here tonight. As the clock's on the mark all the way down to 5:15 to go here in the third quarter. Seward takes a snap, motion here from Joyce, and another offsides here from Clark, it looks like. A little bit of motion on the near side, I believe, and that will be an automatic first down. Was going to be 2nd down and 3 to go for Lane Tech, but instead it will be 1st down and 10 from the Michelle Clark 34-yard line. It's going to keep the clock ticking, give Lane Tech a new set of downs as the clock goes under 5 minutes now to go. I think the record we've seen from Lane is 10 minutes and a couple of seconds against TF South on a drive, as Joyce gets it to the 30-yard line, a gain of about 4 there on first down. And this is what Lane Tech has been so successful with all year long, these chunk plays, and we didn't see it for a couple of drives there in the second quarter, but they've gone back to their roots here. 4 or 5 yards every play. They get 4 there on first down, and now it'll be 2nd and 6.
Left of the third quarter.
Lane's been able to take almost a minute off the clock every single one of these drives. If they keep this up, this drive could last almost the entire third quarter. Joyce, Merrill, Joshua in the backfield, Seward under center, and a big offsides there, just charging up the middle was number 78, Avion Ellis.
Penalty flag.
Listed as a right tackle. He is playing straight up the middle there, so he's in a slightly different position than usual. And that will bring us from a 2nd and 6 to a 2nd and 1 now for Lane Tech. These penalties from the Eagles have been very helpful for Lane Tech as we reach the 3:45 mark now in quarter number 3. Run a similar formation. Joyce in the backfield. They fake the pitch to him, give it to Merrill. Merrill up the middle with first down yardage and more. He gets to the, looks like they're marking him at the 19-yard line. He got down even further than it looked like originally. And it will be 1st down and 10 from the 19-yard line of Clark.
1st and 10 from the 19-yard.
So Lane will have about up to 8 plays in the red zone to try to punch in a touchdown. They were not able to do it the last time they got in the red zone in the second quarter, but we'll see if they can change that here. Seward takes it under center. Some movement from Merrill. They fake it, hand it off to Joyce. So the same exact play, except they inverse who's running the fake motion and who's taking the handoff. Joyce gets the handoff this time, but they say he's tackled immediately by Spivey. It looked from our angle that he got a couple of yards, but they will keep them at the 19-yard line, and that will be 2nd and 10 now for Lane Tech. 2.5 minutes now to go in quarter number 1. So getting even closer to the longest drive we have seen of the season from Lane Tech, I believe, which was the first drive of the 3rd quarter against TF South for Lane. Motion from Joyce. They hand it off. They pitch it to him this time, but a big tackle in the backfield by number 24, Anthony Spivey, who's having himself quite the second half. He's been on the ball almost every single time. Loss of yardage on the play, and this is going to bring up 4th down and about 13 yards to go, it looks like, from the 3rd down and 12 yards to go from the 22-yard line of Clark. So Lane digging themselves a little bit of a hole here on 3rd and long. We'll see if they try to switch it up and go with the passing play or not. No signs that they are at the moment. Seward pitches it to Merrill. They hand it off to Joyce. Joyce gets up the middle for a couple of yards, but brought down around the 20. And there's going to be a late flag. I believe this is going to be face mask against Lane Tech.
Holding.
Oh, no, they're going to call holding against Lane Tech. So I thought it was going to be something on that tackle on Joyce, which looked a little aggressive from our angle, more than usual. Instead, it's going to bring Lane Tech back to the... Oh, it's going to move them way back to the 35-yard line. Lane Tech has to get all the way down to the 9, so this is now going to be replay 3rd down, and I believe 21-yard line. 21 yards to go. They moved the football a little bit, so looks like they may have moved it closer now. So what I believe happened there is Clark may have also called timeout, but they declined the penalty to just move it to 4th down and 11. Because usually they do not switch the down on holding. So it looks like it's going to be 4th down and 11 for Lane Tech from the 20-yard line. And I just heard head coach DeWalt yell for his field goal team to come onto the field. So Mugden Creo might have a chance to redeem himself for a missed field goal earlier in the game in the 2nd quarter. And this would put Lane Tech up 17, 1:04 to go in quarter number 3 of action. Thanks for joining us. Alex Burstein on the call here from Lane Stadium. Not quite basketball season just yet here. Still a few more weeks of football. Lane Tech hoping more than a few more weeks. They will have at least 3. And the way I'm looking at it is, right now, if they win here today, which it looks like they'll do, they'll have at least 4. The current problem with Lane Tech and the state playoffs is their strength of schedule for this year just hasn't been super hard. So even if they can get a win over Phillips and they lose to Simeon, is the assumption here. Even with an 8-1 record, their seeding is still going to be pretty low. But the good thing for Lane is if they lose in the first round of the state playoffs, they'll be able to make a run in the city playoffs. And Lane has established themselves as one of the better teams in the city this year, as there's going to be a whistle blown. Originally, it was going to be a 36-yard attempt. Looks like no flag was blown, but the players were not set on the Clark side of the ball. Fans sitting here in the Lane Tech section were hoping for a 5-yard penalty. They won't give it, and it's going to be a 37-yard, not 36, so the same exact distance as the first field goal attempt here by Creo. 1:04 on the clock, and this would give Lane Tech a 17-0 lead. The kick is up. This one much better than the first one, and it's in. Creo with a 37-yarder to put Lane up 17-0, and they have made this one a 3-0 lead. And the final count on that possession 11 minutes and 3 seconds. That is out of a 12-minute quarter. So Lane uses all but 57 seconds of the third quarter. They end it with points, and they have just made this game a lot harder for Clark, as even if Clark were to score two-point conversions, they still would be trailing. So that Lane Tech has made this a much tougher contest right now for the Eagles. It'll be Olsen kicking off. This is his first time kicking off from the north side of the field here today. The wind is blowing slightly out to the south right now, so that should help Olsen get a little bit of carry on the ball here. They're going to send a man back to receive, I think all the way back to about the 8-yard line. They have two guys back there around the 6 or 5-yard line, and then they have one up around the 15. But Olsen expecting a big kick here. 57 seconds to go in the third. Lane Tech in control of this one, 17-0. Olsen sends this one towards the sideline. It's going to be almost caught. That one almost looked like it hit the hand of number 4, LaKendrick Bailey. They say it doesn't, though, and that will mean the possession is going to start on the 20-yard line here for Clark, who, once again, this is the, I think, 5th possession of the day for the Eagles, maybe the 4th, and once again, they're just stuck all the way down in their own territory. It'll be interesting to see if at some point today they do, in fact, get good field position, how they're able to maybe turn that into points, but that just has not been an option so far for Clark. Kickoff took 1 second off the clock, so the Eagles will start this drive with 56 seconds to go in quarter number 3. 17-0, the lead for Lane Tech over Clark. And this state playoff berth seems to be getting more and more likely here for Lane Tech. This will be their first time since 2013, should they be able to do it. And still 3 weeks left to go in the regular season, as we're going to see a flag called. Didn't see any movement from Lane Tech, so I assume this is going to be a false start or delay of game. Not sure. We'll see what the referees call. They've had different referees calling the penalties here today, so it's sometimes hard to tell who's going to call it. But either way, this is going to back them up 5 yards, so we're going to assume it is a false start, and now it'll be 1st and 15 from their own 15. Even worse field position to start off this quarter number 3 drive for Clark. First down, they hand it off, heading towards the outside, and stopped quickly there was Perkins, who was not playing as quarterback. They do put in Adrian Clayton, who we assumed was going to be the starting quarterback today for that one. However, Clayton comes back out of the game. Oh, no, I think he's just talking to a coach. So it looks like there is a quarterback change here for the Eagles. They're trying to get a new pace into the game. They move Perkins into more of a running back type role. Sophomore's been impressive running the ball here today. They decide they can use the arm of Clayton. And looking at some tape for Clayton heading into tonight's game, he is somewhat easily predictable based on where he lines up in shotgun versus center. If he takes it under center, he usually steps back a couple of his feet, and then he almost rolls every single time, as one play is going to be gone off. Looks like a fumble there by Rogers. We'll see who falls on it. And still awaiting the pile, and it looks like Clark may have kept possession there.
Ball is recovered.
So Clark will keep possession. It'll be 3rd down and 15 to start off the 4th quarter, but through 3, still all Lane Tech here at Lane Stadium. It's the Champions 17, Eagles 0. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Lane Tech football here on the Lane Tech Athletics YouTube channel.
Lane Tech defeated Taft in boys 16-inch softball to win today's city championship. Let's give a big round of applause to the Lane Tech boys 16-inch softball team, winning 5-4 today to win the city championship at Clementi High School.
To quarter number 4 we go. Lane Tech with a 17-0 lead over Clark. They look to close this one out here with the last 12 minutes to play. Not sure if you guys could hear that from the announcement speaker at the end of this third quarter, but Lane Tech was able to win the boys 16-inch softball championship to get their first city title of the year here. Lane had, I believe, 8 city titles last year across all the seasons for varsity sports, and they get their first one here today as the champions defeat the Taft Eagles in the championship. They had the semifinals and final earlier here today at Clemente. So a lot of success here. I believe swim might also have a meet today, and then football obviously looking to be in pretty good position for a win here tonight on Fritz Pollard Day at Fritz Pollard Field at Lane Stadium. That's a mouthful there. And it's going to be 3rd and 15, and whistles are going to blow, and we're going to see a timeout called by Clark before they even snap the ball in the 4th quarter. They just did not have the, I think, right number of players on the field. They had people subbing in and out at the last minute, and Clark will burn the first of their timeouts here in the 4th quarter on just a miscommunication between the coaching staff and the players. We saw that came back to hurt them in the first half, and that honestly could have been a momentum changer had Clark cut this to a 1-score game heading into halftime. And they had stopped Lane Tech defensively from scoring, and then Lane Tech missed a field goal, so momentum was kind of towards Clark for a second there. And then they were moving the ball down very well, rushing it. But the problem was they just ran out of timeouts. They had one, they called it with about 35 seconds left. They spiked the ball at 15 seconds, and then they did a bizarre rushing play with 15 seconds left in the game, and it ended up being fumbled. Lane Tech recovered, and that was the end of quarter number 2. Lane Tech deferred to start the game, so they got it to start the second half. Lane Tech drove for 11 minutes and 3 seconds to take the lead here off of a 37-yard field goal from Mugdom Creo. And that's where we are now, 17-0 as we enter quarter number 4. 3rd and 15, motion from Perkins. Clayton looking, almost sacked there by Nikwe, still being chased now by James Wynn, and he's going to just slip up around the 14-yard line. Good pressure there from Nikwe and then from Wynn, and then at the end there, it was number 33, Amari Prince, the sophomore linebacker, who kind of just rushed him out of bounds. Also on the pressure was number 73, Oliver Sevig, one of the two-way players on this Lane Tech squad. So that will bring up 4th down and 15. They say he slipped right where he started off that rush. And we'll see if they put in their punting team or not. Down 3 possessions, and the way Lane Tech has been burning the clock here today, they might have to go for it here, but if they don't convert, Lane Tech is going to have, they might have possession in the red zone to start off. As Clayton standing in the shotgun, listed at 5'11". Seems like Clayton takes it out of his shotgun more than Perkins did. Perkins did a good mix of under center and shotgun. 10:45 to go. 3rd and 15 from the Clark 16-yard line. 3-man rush here. They throw to the near sideline, but there immediately for the tackles. Number 4, Zach Joshua. And that will be short by about 9 yards, and that will be a turnover on down. So they go 7 yards to the Clark 22-yard line. Lane Tech will be just short of the red zone to start off this quarter number 4 drive. They drove for 11 minutes and 3 seconds in that last quarter, but considering they only have to go 22 yards, I assume it will not be as much, but Lane still can take some time off the clock. Katsagradakis is going to remain out of the game here with Joshua lining up behind Seward here. Motion from Joyce, they handed off to, motion from Merrill, they handed off to him, and that was Joyce actually on the carry. It looked like Merrill for a second, and was Joyce. You're right from the start. He goes to the 5-yard line, and Lane Tech will have first down and goal now. They mark him at the 8-yard line. So we reach about the 10-minute mark to go here in quarter number 4 of play. Lane Tech looking to make this a 4-possession game. Their largest win of the game was a 35-0 win over Hubbard. At this pace, Lane Tech probably not going to reach that unless their offense just goes insane here in the 4th. But Lane Tech is on the verge of their second shutout win as Joyce gets wrapped up around the 10. Thought he had some room on the outside, but Clark did a good job of sending their linebackers to block that outside rushing. And there'll be a loss of 2 to bring it to second down and goal from the Lane Tech 10-yard line. It's between the 10 and the 11, but we'll round down to the 10 here for Lane Tech's sake. So second and goal, 9:20 to go on the clock here from Lane Stadium. One of the problems with Clark here today is we just have not seen much urgency from their offense. They've had long huddles, not a lot of chances for big plays here, and that's come back to hurt them here in the 4th quarter as they're going to need a big comeback. They fake the pitch to Joyce Merrill up the middle. A big tackle there at the end from Cassius Clay, the defensive back for the Eagles, but still goes for a positive yardage. They give him 4 yards, and it'll be third down and goal from the 6 now. I imagine Lane Tech goes for it on 4th here, even if they don't convert, because A, they burn more clock, B, they would be able to make it a 4-possession game. A field goal keeps that 3-possession game, and C, if they don't convert, they give the Eagles possession within their own 5 or 10-yard line. Seward under center, Joshua right behind him. The usuals to the left and right as they're going to call whistle. It wasn't right before the snap, so we'll see if it's holding possibly here for Lane Tech. And looks like it's going to be offsides actually against the Eagles. And that will bring up third down and 1 now. It's a 5-yard penalty. They were at the 6, so moves it all the way down to the 1. And Lane Tech now needs to just somehow get the ball 1 yard, something that hypothetically they should be able to do pretty easily. One thing we have not seen much from Lane Tech this year is quarterback sneaks from Mark Seward. But this could be a chance to kind of give him a chance to diversify his play set. He's really had the same play all year long. You either pitch it or hand it off. We'll see if they try something with Seward up the middle now. They mark it actually at the 3 here. I believe they were at the 6, so I assume the 5-yard would be to the 1. However, instead it'll be 3rd and 3, so a little more distance for Lane Tech. They call the flag again, and they're going to give it against Clark. So a second straight offsides penalty here by the Eagles. This one moves it halfway to the goal line, which is at the 1.5-yard line. Clock has continued to run here, so about 7.5 minutes. If Lane Tech plays this smart, they may be able to get it all the way down to about 7:15 before they run it here. Looks like the referees moved it just to the 1, not the 1.5-yard line, and Lane now just a couple of feet away from breaking this one open, making it a 24-0 ball game should they hit the extra point. Looks like they are going to go with Seward, and the quarterback sneak is... We'll see for the officials' call. Touchdown! Mark Seward, I believe his first touchdown of the year. We were just saying they have the chance there to diversify Seward's skill set on the year. Lane Tech punches in the touchdown, and they can go up 24-0 there. They had Joshua right behind him, kind of just pushed Seward through the traffic, and he finds the end zone. Took a while for the referees to make that decision there, but either way, it goes in for a touchdown. Lane Tech up 23-0, and they have the chance now here to make it 24-0 if they can hit the extra point. Creo 2 for 2 on point after attempts today, 3 for 4 overall. He made and missed a field goal, both from 37 yards out. But this year he's been near perfect on point afters. I think I can only remember one miss, and this one's perfect through the uprights, and Lane Tech now up 24-0 with 7:02 to go. That makes it a 4-possession ball game, and this one just getting a little bit out of grasp for Clark, considering Lane Tech's ability to run the clock. That probably was the dagger in this one, unless Clark is able to have some crazy comeback here. It'll be Lane Tech kickoff, so we won't see any onside here. That would only be if Clark was kicking it off. And Simon Olsen will get to kick off for the 5th time here today. 4 scores for Lane Tech, plus the kickoff to start off half number 2 means he's had a busy day. He has not had to punt at all today, actually, though. So let's replace those with kickoffs. 7:02 to go in this one on Fritz Pollard Day, as Olsen sends this one, kind of a squib kick, goes over the head, finally taken by Perkins at around the 15. He's running it back, and Hans Flynn almost there, chasing him down. He gets around Flynn, and now out to the 30, and a nice run there from Perkins. He's still on his feet. Perkins at the 30. Olsen trying to push him down. Harper can't get him in, and that is a 85-yard kickoff return by number 6, Perkins. Tyshawn Perkins, what a run there. The sophomore uses his speed. It looked like he was taken down around the 30-yard line of Clark territory. He somehow got through, like, at least 6 or 7 Lane Tech defenders there. And Lane Tech, for the first time all season, has a kickoff run back to him. So they actually marked it as a 91-yard return, because I forgot it bounced at the 15, but he ends up receiving it at the 9, and quite the run there from Perkins. And we said barring any miracles, this is an easy Lane Tech win, but just like that, it is a 3-score game, and I imagine Clark's gonna go for an onside kick here. Looks like they're going for 2 from the 3-yard line. They're going to keep Clayton into the game as quarterback. I imagine we might see Perkins running it here. 2 men in the backfield, a wide receiver to the right here for Clayton. That is Starks, who's had a quiet game. They hand it up the middle, and in for the score is Willie Taylor. So actually, that's going to make it a 2-possession game, not a 3-possession game, as now it's going to be a 16-point game, and hypothetically speaking, 2 8-point touchdowns with the 2-point conversion would tie this one up. So really important for Lane here to jump on the football. I have to assume Clark is going to go for the onside kick, because their kicking has not been great today. So they probably wouldn't have that much of an advantage just kicking it downfield, and then on top of that, just they obviously want possession back as quick as possible, as this has become a slightly more winnable game for the Eagles. 6:38 to go, quarter number 4 of action, a 24-8 lead for Lane Tech. Looks like we may have a different kicker for the Eagles. Earlier in the half, it was number 60, Alberto Hernandez. Now it looks like they're going to send Clayton, the quarterback, into kick. He's listed as a quarterback and a defensive back. No kicker on there. However, he will try the onside attempt. Lane has some players back just in case they decide to go for the long kick, but I can't imagine why Clark would do that at this point. 6:38 to go in the game. Thanks for joining us, Alex Person, down the call from Lane Stadium, as they do a soft rolling kick, but there to recover it will be number 39, or excuse me, number 38, Prendel Miles.
First and 10. Ball spotted.
So Lane Tech avoids any disaster there. They field the onside kick, and they will get it at the 42-yard line. 2 timeouts remain for Clark. I'm guessing at this point is where you might see the Eagles start to call them, because Lane Tech, if they run the clock correctly and take about 3 downs per per every first down. They could run this clock out with about 3, maybe 4 first downs. They start at their own 47. Motion from Joyce. They hand it off to him. Goes up the middle. Finds the way to the outside, and that will be about a 2-yard gain to the 49.
Casey Joyce on the carry. Brought down by
We've seen touchdowns on the day from Joyce. 51 yards running, Katsogradakis. Short one up the middle, and then Seward on the quarterback sneak to go along with a field goal from Creo. And then we had the 91-yard kickoff return touchdown just a couple of minutes ago from Tyshawn Perkins, who just continues his very impressive day. He's just a sophomore. He's going to be a force to reckon with here in the public league over the next couple of years. And Clark did win two conference games already. Excuse me, 1 conference game already, but they should hypothetically be in a position to stay up in the red as Merrill takes this one to the 48-yard line. The standings in the red heading into tonight's game. Phillips 3-0, Lane Tech 2-0, Clark 1-1, Taft 1-2, Westinghouse 1-2, and Young 0-3. Those are all of the conference records for these squads. Next week's conference pairings, Lane Tech taking on Phillips. It will be its Clark team taking on Taft at home, and then the other matchup will be Westinghouse at Whitney Young, which I have a feeling could be closer than might initially be expected to. Young has been knocking on the door of a second win recently as they give it to Merrill, who converts on the 3rd down and 4, gets it down to about the 47.5. We'll see where they end up marking it. Excuse me, the 42.5. And they're going to mark it at the 43-yard line, it looks like. But either way, that will move the chains. Oh, no, they're actually marking them a yard short. Let's see, and they're waiting to move it, and now they are going to move it. So first down and 10 yards to go for Lane Tech from the 43-yard line. 4.5 minutes to go on the clock. So Lane Tech did a good job there of slowly moving the ball up the up the field. We have not seen any timeouts called yet by Clark. They have 2 left to use. Lane Tech has 3 left to use. However, I have a feeling Lane Tech will not be wanting to close out the clock at all. If Lane Tech does get a field goal here, they do make it back a 3-possession game as Joyce gets taken down at the line. This defense has done a good job of stopping Joyce ever since he had two 10-plus yard rushes to start the day. He had a 51-yard rush and then an 11-yard rush. Since then, they've done a better job of stopping him, but Lane's been able to give it to Merrill and change up the way they are running this offense to keep it at a winnable distance for now. So a 2-yard loss. It will be 2nd down and 12 for Lane Tech from their Clark 45-yard line. Clock ticking down to about 3:20. I assume 5 more seconds will be taken off before Lane snaps the ball. The one thing that this scoreboard does not have is a play clock, as Merrill gets across the original line of scrimmage, pulled down all the way to about the 40. And they will keep him at the 40 here. So it ends up being a 5-yard game on 2nd down, 3rd down, and 7. And we'll see that 2nd timeout called by Clark. So now they just have 1 left. Probably the right time to call it if you are Clark. If you stop Lane Tech here, you might have about 3 minutes to go. Call another timeout, and Lane Tech punts it. You'll have about 2 minutes, 50 seconds or so to score twice. So you'll obviously need to get a onside kick recovery, more or less. The one thing that Lane Tech can do to basically close this one out is if they get a if they get a first down, I think the way the clock works out is this is more or less going to run out, and after maybe 1 or 2 plays, 2 first downs will definitely clinch it. We may see Lane Tech head into victory formation. 3:07 to go, quarter number 4 of action. 24-8 lead for Lane Tech over the Clark Douglas Prep Co-op team, who are hoping to stay above 500, but as of now would drop to 3-3 on the year and 1-2 in conference play. It's been a weird up and down season for Clark. They opened up the season, big win against King, then a big loss to St. Viator. Then they had a big win against Brooks, big win against Young, small win against Young, point-wise, but a big win confidence-wise. And then they lost to Westinghouse last week. As I think we're going to see another offsides here. This continues to just hinder this Clark team. I've not been keeping track. I imagine that's at least 6 or 7. We may be eyeing the double-digit marks of offside penalties against this Clark defense. Just been a little undisciplined at the line here. Clock will stay stopped because of the timeout, but that one moves it from a 3rd and 7 situation to a 3rd and 2. And if Lane Tech goes up the middle here, that'll be the first down we said they not desperately need, but they would like to without having to turn the ball over. I'm guessing this is 4-down territory right now for Lane Tech. They hand off to Merrill, and they won't need 4-down territory. Merrill gets across the line of scrimmage down to about the 28-yard line. That's where they'll mark him. A gain of 7 on the run from Merrill, who just... It always amazes me how Lane Tech's able to run plays like that, that they've been doing all game long, and just have... They're still able to get 5, 6, 7 yards off of it. The play's just very unstoppable against these high school defenses Lane Tech has faced off against. Interesting here, not calling the timeout is Clark. So Lane will take their first snap here at about 2:20. Not going to need it yet. So they hand it off to Joshua up the middle. He has some room, and that one's going to be good for at least 5 yards. It's close to first down yardage, and they'll mark him around the 22-yard line. So a nice run there. Clock goes to 2 minutes.
2 minutes remaining in the contest.
The final marking is going to go to the 22, it looks like. Lane Tech has to get to the 18, so a 6-yard rush there from Joshua on first down sets up a 2nd and 4 situation for Lane. We're trying to close this one out. Clock ticks to about 90 seconds now. Allowed that one kickoff return touchdown, but overall a very solid day for Lane Tech on both sides of the ball. And they're going to call a penalty against Lane Tech. Wasn't a false start there. Not sure what the referees called, but it is going to back Lane Tech up a little bit from the 2nd and 4 to what should be now, 2nd and 9. So that first run by Joshua nearly gets erased here. Clock stopped at 1:25. Not sure if they're going to keep it rolling after Lane breaks their huddle or not. Looks like they will not, so we will stay at 85 seconds left in this one. Lane Tech with a 24-8 lead over Clark. Joyce in motion. They fake the pitch, give it to Merrill. Merrill over to the left-hand side, gets stopped at around the 22-yard line. So this is going to bring up 3rd down. If Lane Tech... So the clock started to run as the ball was dead at around the 1:18 left. So hypothetically, if Lane kneels this at 39 seconds, that should do it. It would only be 39 seconds out of the 40 allowed on the play clock. We'll see if they go into victory formation here or if they try to punch it in for a first down. Currently 3rd down and 5 from the visitors' 24-yard line. Doesn't look like victory formation here. Now they're going to back Joshua back up a little. 38 seconds, and it will be. They kneel it. Always kind of hard to tell here what is Lane Tech's usual under center formation and what's their victory formation. But that's just about going to do it for us from Lane Stadium on Fritz Pollard Day on Fritz Pollard Field. Lane Tech gets the 24-8 victory in front of some very happy alumni to my left and right sides. They give Lane a standing ovation as they exit the field. And Lane Tech is headed to the state playoffs. 6-0 start to the year. The best start in recent history for Lane Tech, possibly of the 21st century. Still 3 more weeks to go in regular season, but in 4 weeks we will be watching Lane Tech play in an IHSA 8A state playoff game. Very exciting day for Lane Tech. First to win. Also, great job honoring Fritz Pollard, one of Lane Tech's most famous and trailblazing alums, the first black NFL head coach and African-American, one of the first African-American players for the in the NFL. So a great job at Lane Stadium here today, which will going forward be called Fritz Pollard Field. And yeah, that's just about going to do our coverage here today. We'll give you a quick scoring recap. Your final score 24-8. The 8 points for the Eagles, coming off of a 91-yard touchdown kickoff return run by the quarterback / running back, Tyshawn Perkins. He's just a sophomore. He's the one to watch for in the coming years. But for Lane Tech, 4 different scores. We had the first touchdown punched in by Casey Joyce, 51 yards. Then we saw Giannis Katsogradakis late in the first quarter punch up a run up the middle for a touchdown. Then in the third quarter, a 37-yard field goal by Mugdum Creo. He was 3 for 4 on kicks here today, 75%. Good day for him. And then finally, Mark Seward gets, I believe, his first score of the year on a quarterback sneak from the 1-yard line. Lane Tech takes this one 24-8. That's just about going to do our coverage here this afternoon from Lane Stadium. Your final score on Fritz Pollard Day at Fritz Pollard Field: Lane Tech 24, Clark 8. My name's Alex Burstein. Good night.
Take care. I'm sorry, your name was? Darius. I'm Danny.